Hello, and welcome to the Cyber Resilience Brief, a SafeBreach podcast, where we touch on the big issues in cybersecurity, breach and attack simulation, and adversarial exposure validation. Today, we have a very special episode for you. I'm your host, Tova Devorin, and with me are very special guests. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because this episode today is about women in cybersecurity for Women in Cyber Day. We're releasing this on September 1st. And I know as a woman in cyber, I'm sick of being introduced for and talked for.
I'll start. Shalini Rawani, or Shal for short. I'm a customer success manager for SafeBreach and been at this company for 3 years. Prior to customer success, I've had roles in sales and marketing and BDR prior to that. I definitely enjoy this role today the most, and that's why I'm here.
I'm Fallon Martin. I'm the VP of People here at SafeBreach, which is a fancy way of saying, I lead our people team, which is responsible for all things human resources and really the total employee experience from the moment that we reach out to a candidate that we're interested in all the way through the full life cycle of their experience at SafeBreach. So I feel especially lucky that I get to work with our greatest assets, our people, and hopefully help them achieve their dreams at our company. So I love what I do, like Shell.
Hi, I'm Michal Weiner. I'm a CFO at SafeBridge. Been here for the past year. I have around almost 20 years experience in financial industries, in high-tech companies, fast-growing companies. This is the first time that I've been in a cybersecurity company.
My name is Sally. I'm a product manager here at SafeBreach. Uh, I love working with people and I love breaking difficult tasks into tiny solutions and solving problems bit by bit.
Thanks again for being here. I just realized I don't think I've ever introduced myself on the podcast. So, hi, all. I am Tova Devorin. I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at SafeBreach, and I've been here for about 6 months. And in general, I just love bringing different ideas, different people together, and being able to get the best potential out of everything and everyone. So, that's what we're doing here today. Let's talk a little bit about women in cybersecurity. It is September 1st, 2025. What would you say it's like to be a woman in cybersecurity today? Let's do a snapshot in time.
So, first of all, I think it's a tremendous privilege to be a woman in cyber in 2025. First, because yes, as we all know, there are barriers to entry, not just for women, but for all underrepresented communities. So it's a privilege to be here. A lot of us got here accidentally or someone opened a door for us. So I feel a lot of gratitude to be in the space. I also feel gratitude because, you know, talent that is truly equipped and leading talent in the cyberspace is highly competitive and really hard to find. And as such, employers in the space have to work really hard to keep them and hold on to them, which means that they show up, or they should be showing up, to capture the best talent with great employer packages, right? So they have to think remote first culture is important to people because it is these days. They have to think about their total offering and being a really friendly employer for all sorts of people to be super highly attractive and capture that great talent. And what that looks like in reality is I get to work for a remote first company. And I come from a background in government and military where I spent more than 20 years, where I didn't have a remote option at all. I didn't have the kind of flexibility that I have found in this space. And that has allowed me to show up as a woman, yes, as a mother, as a nearly a primary caregiver in many cases, and to be able to have both of those responsibilities and feel some level of balance that I've never felt before. And the other thing about being in cyber is the freedom to create, specifically in startups and early stage companies, to create something, to build something, to work in small teams and be seen, to be part of a system where your work is not only visible, but it's really impactful because very often your team starts small and everything you do makes a difference. Every way that you show up in the workplace is important. I think the visibility, the fulfillment of the work that's being done, the creativity, the innovation, it's very hard work. It's very fast paced. and it's very fulfilling. And I don't think I would ever want to leave this space because of that. I have not had that kind of professional fulfillment before. So really feel very privileged. And I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. I definitely echo everything you've talked about, Fallon, and I have the same feeling as a mother and woman in cyber. But I think, the good thing about women in cyber today in 2025 is no longer a rare exception. We're leaders, we're builders, we're innovators, and we're definitely shaping the future of companies that are looking to have more women on their team as leaders and individual contributors as well.
Unfortunately, it means to be a minority in the team, in the company, in the meetings, in the room. Um, it's still a very highly dominated male industry, regardless of the position, whether it's in engineering, it's sales, and customer success or other position in the companies, in our company as well as in our competition and our customers. You're still seeing that the majority is done by male position.
I can say the contrary, that I can say being a woman in cybersecurity in 2025, although, as Michal said, being a minority is overall good because people have a lot of awareness, much more than they used to, I believe. And there's a lot of understanding and a lot of compassion and a lot of women empowerment in the cybersecurity industry nowadays. And I believe that that is better than what used to be. And I hope that will only continue and improve how cybersecurity companies treat women in the work.
I think it's also really inspiring to the next generation. I have two girls of my own, and they see how much time and effort I actually put into work, but also be there for them. And I think it's impacted what they want to do growing up. It's given them some vision and understanding that, not everything comes easy, but when you put in the effort and the time, great things happen. And I talked to them a little bit about my experience and what I do. So it's actually interesting how much they catch from those little conversations. And believe it or not, my daughter just signed up. She's in middle school. She signed up for a class around cybersecurity. And I asked her, I said, "What made you choose this elective?" And she said, "Because I hear you speak to your clients and, talk technical stuff that you may not use on your in your day-to-day because your day-to-day beyond the computer that you face or the screen you face in front of you is taking care of us, and it's very different. It's two completely different worlds." And she said, "I want to do that. I want to have access to both those things and be there and have that balance as well, just like you."
Wow, thanks, Shalini. It's funny, if we're bringing parenting into this, I'll jump in a little bit with my perspective. As I am speaking from the Israel office, where we're more in a hybrid arrangement, and the landscape does look a little bit different. We do have one of the highest concentrations of cybersecurity companies, period, in the world here. So you do know a lot of people, women and men, who work in cybersecurity here. What I'm seeing really is a change for good, just more inclusion, more involvement. There are more women at events than I remember seeing in the past, and I think right now only 15% of women are CISOs, but 5, 6 years ago, that number stood at about 11%, if I recall correctly. So we're seeing some good positive change. And also just speaking from someone who's sort of half based in the US and half based here in Israel, I come from an underrepresented population within an underrepresented population. I mean, not just as an immigrant, but also part of a particular community. And things have very much evolved. I mean, even in my first gig, within the first 3 years, I had managed to gain more respect within the organization, meet more women who came from my type of community, the Orthodox Jewish community, and see them at these events. And over the years, I'm meeting more developers who come from our community. It matters to me a lot as a parent. Because as of a few years ago, I did have my daughters being told in kindergarten, your only legitimate careers were being a teacher because then you get to be home with your kids, or other just traditional women's career paths like healthcare. And I'm seeing a shift, and our daughters are taking an interest in this. They taking an interest in STEM in general and cybersecurity, and I'm seeing it being added to the school curriculum, and it gives me a lot of hope.
I do see a trend. I don't see that the separation is happening as it was before when young girls were told that they are not able or capable or they are just not, good in math in order to do things. So when a teacher asks the questions and you're seeing that if the girl is not 100% positive that she knows the answer, she will not raise the hand. While the guys, the boys in the class will do that and will be more open and upfront. So I think there is a need for teachers to be able to share and to be aware of these differences between the boys and the girls in the class in order to give the girls also the room to ask to learn and don't feel that they need to be at their best in order to participate, in order to learn, in order to advance.
I do have a follow-up question, which is, do we think that we need to change how we approach the technical side of things from a training perspective? Because women and men just learn differently, generally speaking, right? I mean, we might have a different approach. We might think of things differently. Do we think that gaining the technical knowledge, that entire process needs to be tailored to a different mindset?
This is such an important question. I don't know how to answer it without the actual qualifications of a true educator or a learning and development specialist. I mean, the answer is yes, obviously. I think it starts even further back, though. It starts as you're alluding to, Tova, which is it starts early. It starts in their schooling, right? And I think that's really important is how can we create opportunities for young women and again other underrepresented communities to get into high tech and into cyber earlier. I can say I'm seeing more of it with my children in their school system. I'm not sure that that same opportunity exists everywhere, but I do see programs being developed within their public school systems. No, I don't know if it starts in early education, in secondary education. I mean, I just think we have to create more and more opportunities to bring in those upper underrepresented groups. Maybe you have something to say on it, Shell.
Yeah, I honestly believe that cybersecurity is technical, but it's also learnable. You don't really have to know everything in day one, and you grow as you go, is what I believe in. I've had the opportunity as such, especially because I support post sales. I almost learn as the customer grows in their journey. And being able to not have to memorize facts and learn how to think, but actually be able to learn how to troubleshoot and how to ask the right questions and how to connect the dots is an approach that I've taken. And that's why I feel like it wasn't so much of a pressure learning the technical things. It just came naturally by absorbing, by asking questions, by leaning on my technical counterparts that I would say, "Hey, explain it to me in simpler words. What exactly did we accomplish?" And, having a team as such that was willing to help me and having clients that understood that I may not have had the background of knowing all of this coming into it and preempting and having those conversations early gave me time to grow, time to learn. And also, I believe that training never stops, that everything that happens in your day to day, there's something to learn out of it if you're willing to take the time to pause and understand and just review everything that happened today.
Shelley, how have you approached the technical side of cybersecurity? I think you're the most technical of all of us here. What's helped you most in growing your skills? Do you think we need to rethink how we train and how we educate to make this field more accessible?
So I have to say that thanks to my education, I've been able to receive this opportunity. And even after getting into SafeBreach and starting my role in this company, I've received so much knowledge, and it's all been through communication, conversation, and education with my male peers. As the only woman in the product team, like not product marketing team, but the product team, primarily most of my colleagues are males. So if not for them, probably a lot of my knowledge would be lacking. So I believe that it is about collaboration and understanding that we need each other and listening. That's it for me.
I agree. Learning never stops. And I like your collaborative approach to technical learning. I do think that it's a strength that we've had to draw on. I've heard and I've seen studies that when it comes to being confronted with something new, generally speaking, we think of fight, flight, or freeze. But when it comes to men, they are more likely to take fight, flight, or freeze, and women are more tend to befriend. And even though learning STEM subjects in cybersecurity is definitely not a crisis by any means, it's still a new field for many of us who didn't necessarily come equipped with that background or that natural acumen. And so, us being able to befriend anybody in the field who's willing to explain things to us gives us the ability to take that learning and not just apply it to ourselves, but figure out how to pass it on more efficiently to others. My hope is that our daughters won't have to deal with this and they'll be just as technically equipped as anybody else. And this won't even be a conversation in 10 years. I don't know how you feel.
No, I think what you're saying is really important, Tova, and actually what Shal expressed. It comes across as more complex than it actually is, right? And maybe some of that is actually by design, hopefully not. But I do think Shal's point about how you don't have to be technical, at least not coming in, to thrive in this space. And you can learn it, and all people can learn it. And most importantly, the way Shal has done, specifically if you look at our space, cybersecurity SaaS, if you're selling a product and you can't explain it to anyone, to the layman or woman or whomever, if you can't explain it to a child, then that's a problem, right? So all of these technical capabilities should be able to be explained at that level. When you're new in this space, if you can synthesize the larger concepts and you have grit and resilience and you're a lifelong learner and you're curious and you're self-propelled, you can learn anything. And I think many of us have proven that, and we've done that coming in with exactly zero technical skills and abilities. And that applies to all people, not just women, of course. So again, it just speaks to some of these barriers to entry are not actually barriers. They're just perceived barriers and they don't need to be there. And it just takes the decision makers to make a mental shift in many cases.
I think women don't ask. Sometimes they feel that they need to know, they need to learn from themselves. They are working very, very hard. And while men are sometimes, at least in general, have more ability to ask for questions, to ask for additional clarifications, women sometimes feel shy about asking and re-asking on things. So I think when training comes to place, it is important to make sure that the trainee and the trainer are aware of this. Again, it's part of openness and transparency and awareness of this situation will help a long way.
I think I'll continue what Michal started talking about here. I'll say, don't be afraid to ask, because if we don't ask, we never learn, because we'll just keep our lack of knowledge to ourselves. And asking will just make you look curious and eager to learn, as most women in cybersecurity are. And if not for asking, we wouldn't have any knowledge. And that's really the key, to ask and to re ask until you understand. And some men and women are more patient and some are less. And, find the person that doesn't make you feel bad for asking, maybe asking the same question, and learn from them as much as you can.
What advice would you give to anyone looking to enter cybersecurity right now? And what do you think we should do as a community of women in cybersecurity? What conversation should we have this year so that we can impact next year?
I would say just do it. I think a lot of women hesitate when they see some of the requirements in a job listing that may not be 100% everything that they can do. Um, I think there's a lot of hesitation and lack of confidence to put in for a role that they don't feel confident being able to achieve or overachieve getting into the role right away. So my advice is, get in, give it your all, be a sponge and learn as you grow. And give it back to others, right? I think what is happening is a lot of us have had luck on our side where someone else opened the door for us, and now it's time to pay it forward to someone that may not have the confidence today to take on a role they've never done before.
I think first we are doing it now, and this podcast is a step in the right direction. I think at least, bringing this to the awareness of individual, whether it's the minority group or the majority groups, the fact that there is a trend, there should be a trend that equality can happen, and there is a place in SafeBreach and in other similar companies for women, and people shouldn't be afraid to try to do more. And I think, open the door.
Shelley, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I gotta say that just like we're doing this podcast right now, SafeBreach has had women's only events in the past year that have been here, and a lot of understanding and acceptance for women related issues or thoughts. And I believe that is a great direction to go in. I believe that continuing to doing these things that give women the space to share their thoughts and maybe difficulties, that's a great direction.
One thing we can do, not just as women, but all people can do, if you're fortunate enough to work in this space, is open a door for somebody who isn't in it. Because I can tell you, as one of the talent people, I'm talking to this talent, and there are so many people who have those real transferable skills, right? The go-getters, the people who are just self-propelled, curious, lifelong learners. They've got grit, they've got resilience, they have the ability to dig deep, but they don't have the experience in the industry or in cyber. It's like, okay, great. Well, take a chance on somebody and open a door for them, and you're now reducing those barriers to entry. That's what happened to me. That's how I got into the space. I think that's how a lot of people do. Someone opens a door, you walk in, and you never want to leave. And so I would just say a challenge to everybody to help bring more of that representation would just be open a door, even if it's just for one person. If you have the ability to influence a decision maker, if you are a decision maker, regardless of who you are, open the door for somebody.
I found that you are so correct. That is very insightful. And especially in an industry like cybersecurity, where, in Hebrew we'd say protexia, you need connections to get in. And I do think that that part still stands true to one extent or another. And that's why we as women really need to help each other. The Cyber Resilience Brief is a SafeBreach podcast. It's produced by Tova Devorin and executive produced by Adrian Cully. Sound design provided by Adobe Podcasts. Distribution provided by Podbean, and extra support and love from the SafeBreach team. For more information on how adversarial exposure validation through SafeBreach can protect you and your business, no matter where you reside or what industry you're in, please visit us at www.safebreach.com.